Hi everyone, it's Rax, bringing you the LoD HotA Barbarian guide. Someone on my stream the other day asked me, Rax, out of all the S tier builds next season, which one of them is the tankiest? I never want to die. It's this one. You run around with a big hammer and smash everything down, and the Barbarians start with probably the best starter set in the game, the Whirlwind set. You can use that to farm all these pieces and then dominate. I'll teach you how to put this together and show you some gameplay. But remember, there's also the Maxroll guide written by Rob here. So if you have any questions or need the full details, check it out here on Maxroll. So to make an LoD build, we need the Legacy of Dreams gem. That's where the LoD comes from, not unlike the Legacy of Dreams Wave of Light video that I just released. So we level up this gem to 99, and as long as we don't have any set bonuses, you can wear set pieces like this Blackthorns for the elemental damage. You just can't have another piece of Blackthorns and have a set bonus. No set bonuses, you level up this gem, you're going to get a massive damage increase and survivability increase for all of the ancient pieces that you're wearing. So we have to get this gem, then we have to level it up to 99, and then we need all ancient gear. That's why usually with an LoD build, you usually don't start that for the season. You'll do your seasonal journey on a Barbarian, you'll get your Whirlwind set, you'll spin around, you'll farm all these pieces, then you'll build LoD HotA, and then you'll go and just smash everything down with your big hammer. Starting with the weapon, we have Remorseless. Now, this item is sanctified, so you're going to be able to make one item a Primal Ancient, at least have Primal Ancient stats, and then you're going to get to pick one of the class's legendary powers to also attach to that item. Ironically, for this build, all three of them for the Barbarian are pretty good. The Whirlwind pulls in enemies, the Hammer of the Ancients sends out the Shockwave, and the Wrath of the Berserker gives you increased damage. All three of them actually help this build, which is very rare, but the Barbarian powers are actually quite good. The one that I would recommend that you use for solo pushing is the Whirlwind power. So we take Whirlwind, and then Whirlwind is going to pull all the enemies in a nice little pixel for us. And then on our fire cycle, we're going to take our big hammer and smash them back to hell. Okay, so the Whirlwind power is very good. You can try the other ones, but try the Whirlwind power first. You can definitely use the Sanctified thing on your Remorseless. It has a big multiplier range on its power. When you have Wrath of Berserker up and Call the Ancients, you're going to deal massive damage, so you got to keep those cooldowns up all the time. Another thing you could do is put it on the Stone Gauntlets. Trying to get these quad Stone Gauntlets is almost impossible. You can choose where you put the Sanctified item, but those would be two of the best choices. So in this build, all of the normal things are very good for us. Crit, area damage, cooldown is important because you have to keep up your Wrath of Berserker and your Ancients for when you hit, otherwise you're not going to do any damage. So here we'll take Strength, area damage, and cooldown, and then we're going to be ready to smash. In our offhand, we are going to take Echoing Fury. Slaying enemies engulfs the wielder into a frenzy. It's going to give us a lot of attack speed. So once we kill a couple of monsters in our fire cycle, we're going to get a lot of hits off and kill everything. We're going to take percent damage, attack speed, and area damage as our rolls here. For the boots, we need Ice Climbers. Ice Climbers makes us immune to freeze and immobilize effects. This counts as the bad stuff from Stone Gauntlets, so we need this. Strength, Vite, All Resist, and Hammer of the Ancients roll is what we need here. For the pants, we will take Blackthorns, because Blackthorns are the only pants in the game that can roll elemental damage. We do damage on fire, so that's the roll that we want. We want Fire, Strength, Vit, All Resist, and we're going to sock it with diamonds to stay alive. For the first ring, we're going to take Convention of Elements. This is used in every build. I'm sure you know it by now. Crit, area damage is what we're looking for. If you can't get area damage, then you could get average damage, so like the 210 damage, which is actually what we have over here, which is totally fine. Or you could just get another cooldown roll to help you keep up your Wrath of Berserker and your Ancients. That would be fine as well. We'll take Bane of the Trapped here for increased damage. The other ring will be Band of Might. That way, every time that we charge, and we need to charge every 8 seconds, we're going to stay alive and get our 80% damage reduction. Crit, and again, whatever you want. Average damage, area damage, cooldown, all of those things will help you. And we'll take the Legacy of Dreams here so our build actually works. For the belt, we're going to take a Witching Hour, Strength, Vit, attack speed, and crit hit damage. It just has the best offensive stats of any belt in the game. For the gloves, we are going to take Stone Gauntlets. This is going to make us immortal. Just let all the enemies hit you. You're going to get a bunch of stacks. but you're immune to the bad stuff from the ice climbers, so you're just going to pretty much just stay alive forever. Crit, area damage, and cooldown is what you're looking for, and good luck getting this because this is just about impossible to get as an ancient version ever. For the shoulders, we are going to take Fury of the Ancients. Strength, all resist, area damage, and cooldown is what we want. And Call of the Ancients is going to give us an extra rune, and our Ancients attack 100% faster. Pretty much we just have to keep our Ancients up to deal more damage, and when our Ancients are up, they're going to fill our Fury all the way full. For the chest piece, we are going to take Cinder Coat. That's going to reduce the cost of our Hammer of the Ancients by 30%. We're going to be able to smash anytime that we want. Fire, Strength, and Vit is what we want, again with diamonds to stay alive. For the helmet, we will take a Leoric's Crown, because Leoric's Crown is going to give us more cooldown to keep our Wrath of Berserker and our Ancients up. Strength, crit, Hammer of the Ancients is what you're looking for, of course, with the diamond for the more cooldown. For the necklace, we will take Squirt's Necklace. As long as you haven't taken damage, you deal double damage. Then the question I always get asked is, Rax, why would you take Squirt's Necklace if you're always getting hit? You take a Squirt's Necklace in case you get a shield pylon. You get a shield pylon, you got 2 minutes of double damage. You pull the whole map, you take the shield pylon, and then you kill everything. It's amazing. Fire, crit would be the ideal rolls, and we'll take Bane of the Stricken so we can kill the boss. This build sucks at killing the boss, so Bane of the Stricken is a must for solo pushing. Finally, for the bracers, we have Mortix Brace. This is going to give Wrath the Berserker all the runes. It's going to give us a lot of damage and a lot of survivability. Fire, Strength, Vitality, and Crit would be the ideal rolls here. Now for the skills. We're going to take Whirlwind Dust Devils. We take Dust Devils not only to help piss off some enemies that are really far away, it's going to help us stack Stricken on the Guardian, and also we're going to take Whirlwind for our power to pull everything together. Battle Rage Bloodshed is going to give us a massive damage increase, so just keep that up at all times. Call of the Ancients is going to help us stay alive and generate our Fury from the Fury of the Ancients. Just keep them up and you're going to be dominating. Wrath the Berserker Insanity, you actually get all the runes from the Mortix Brace. It's going to give you massive damage and massive survivability. Furious Charge, you have to have this even though you have a lot of mobility with Whirlwind to proc your Band of Might. You got to take something, so take Furious Charge. And then Hammer of the Ancients Smash is what does all of our damage. For the passives, we have Ruthless, just to do more damage. Rampage, to do more damage and a little bit of a survivability increase for more strength. Berserker Rage, to do more damage. And Buna Bolkathos, to keep our Wrath of the Berserker and our Ancients up all the time. That way we can play and get that big damage increase. In the cube, we've got Gavel of Judgment. Hammer of the Ancients does 800% more damage and returns 25 Fury if it hits 3 or fewer enemies. Obviously, have to take that. Bracers of the First Men, 50% faster attack speed and 500% increased damage. Have to take that. And finally, Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac. Whenever we attack, we're gonna reduce the cooldown of our skills to keep our Ancients and our Wrath the Berserker up all the time. One of the best things about this build is if you want to play other variants, there are very few changes that you have to make. For example, if you're going to do speed GRs, all you have to do really is get rid of Bane of the Stricken and take Zay's Stone. Could also take Bane of the Powerful if you want. Could also take Molten Wildebeest Gizzard if you want, just to protect your Squirt's Necklace. And then you could also consider dropping Berserker Rage for Brawler if you want. But really, it's pretty much exactly the same build. And then finally, if you're going to play T16, the first thing I would tell you is don't play this. Play your Whirlwind set. Just hold right click and win. But if you really want to throw your hammers even in T16, you can take things like Gogok, which is going to give you more attack speed. It's going to give you more dodge, more cooldown reduction. It's going to make it a little bit easier. Your Gold Wrap to stay alive when you pick up gold. Your Boon of the Hoarder to spray gold everywhere. You can drop your COE for Stone of Jordan. You can pick up Sprint. You can take a Cheat Death. You can take Chelonics Chain to move faster. With a Warcry, you can take Pound of Flesh to move faster. You know, pretty much all the typical stuff. You can take Rachel's Ring of Larceny to fear them and move faster. Can certainly do this, but if I were you, you probably already have a Whirlwind set. Just press the one button in your armory and just whirl around. That's probably the better option. And finally, for the Paragon points. In core, take movement speed, then maximum fury. Maximum fury gives us more crit. Hammer of the Ancients has a 1% increased crit for every 5 fury that you have. So we need max fury. Take enough vitality just to survive, which shouldn't be much, and pump all the rest into strength. For For offense, take cooldown reduction first so you can keep your buffs up, then critical hit chance, then critical hit damage, and attack speed last. For defense, take all res, then life, then armor, then life per second. And finally, for utility, take area damage, then life on hit, then the pickup radius, and finally, resource cost reduction. All right, so that's how the build works. Let's jump into some gameplay and see how we're going to smash everything down with our big hammer next season. Watch as this clear just smashes a 143. I am absolutely certain next season, if you practice and if you get a good amount of Paragon, you will be able to do 150 solo with this build. I might even be able to do it right now with my Barb. It would be a little bit of a fish, and with the laggy PTR, it'd be a little bit challenging. But this build is just completely insane with using the Whirlwind power. So I don't know if Blizzard's going to buff the HotA power to be as good, but this is plenty good enough. So let me show you how to do this. Well, first of all, as we just said, we're taking the Whirlwind power. We gather everything up. And this build is very specific in how you manage your cooldowns and when you deal your damage. So if you pay attention to my convention of the elements in the bottom middle, you need to understand that it goes physical and then cold and then fire. So fire is where you want to deal all of your damage. So sometime between the end of physical and the end of cold, you need to accomplish a few things. You need to have a very nice little pixel of monsters to smash down. You need to have procced your Band of Might so you don't die during fire cycle, and so you don't have to proc it during your fire cycle, because the only thing we want to do during our fire cycle is throw hammers. And then we also want to do some damage in cold to spawn an Oculus Ring. That way we can essentially do double damage in fire. And then all while that's happening, we need to spam our Wrath of the Berserker. And we need to keep our Ancients up. And once again, we need to intermittently keep up our Band of Might before we do our little rotation. So that's everything that we need to do. How do we put all that together and put it into practice? So you whirlwind around and gather, gather, gather. And then you need to look at your Band of Might cycle. It's that little picture of the ring right there. And when I stomp, you can either take Stomp or Furious Charge. Whenever you press that, it's going to refresh, I believe, for 8 seconds. So you need to refresh it sometime during cold. Now, it doesn't always work very well. Sometimes you have to refresh it like halfway through physical, and then cold comes and you don't really want to waste a global using another ground stomp, but you need to. You need to have free reign during your fire cycle, so you have to at some point stomp in cold. Then about halfway through cold, you need to stop and start dealing damage to make an Oculus Ring. And then once you have it, you whirlwind over there very quickly and you smash all the way through fire cycle. Now, does this work perfectly every time? No. There's going to be wallers, there's going to be wormholes, things are going to go horribly wrong like they always do in Diablo 3. But the more of those kinds of cycles that you can get in the habit of generating, the further you're going to get in the clear, right? The higher tier you're going to be able to do. So we have an Oculus Ring for fire here. We smash on through. And this build does very, very terrible single target damage. So we are very much relying on bringing as many elites over here as possible with as much trash to AoE it down. Now notice I did something very, very specific. I pulled the entire Fields of Misery, but I left one little quadrant just north of me undiscovered. I got a shield pylon, which is not exactly what I wanted, but I'll take it. It gives me double damage from my squirts. And I'm just going to sit here and try to kill as many of these elites as I possibly can while my shield pylon is still going. And then I'm going to try to discover that final pylon and hope that it's going to be a conduit. So use this strategy in your clears. Don't pull the entire map. pull most of the map and leave a little section of it undiscovered, and then you might get another pylon. Okay, so it looks like I've killed every elite that I'm going to kill. Let's see, can we get a conduit? Can we get any pylon at all? Okay, we got a power. That's really not what I wanted. I need the power to kill the boss at the end. So this is pretty much like a waste, right? And I don't think power is enough for me to use on these pretty healthy elites without a ton of trash. Yes, if I sat here for the entire power pylon, I probably could kill them, no problem. But that's not the question. The question is not, can I kill them? The question is it worth it? And I've been down this road before, and once again, the single target of this build sucks. So even with a power pylon, I think I'm just going to walk away and go to the next map. I think that's the better play. So I pretty much threw away my power pylon. I really need it for the boss. I'm thinking this is going to be lost. This map's going to have to be really good. Condi is still in play. Maybe I could get it later. Oh, I have a festering with a channeling. Okay, so the channeling does help me a little bit. It helps me manage my Ancients and my Wrath of Berserker a little bit more. I can just spam them all I want. So that's not... It does a little something for me. But I am pretty much not going to clear this unless I have a conduit. I don't think, like, even if I spawn the boss with this amount of a lead, without a power, I still don't think I could win. So, I guess I'll just whirl on forward and see what we have here. Now, we've already spawned 3 pylons. We spawned shield and power and channeling. Not only that, I very, very recently spawned the channeling. So the most pylons you can get in a rift is 4. So it is possible we could get 1 more. And it is possible that it could be a conduit. But in order to spawn a conduit, I'm likely going to have to get a ton of progression. So I am not extremely hopeful here, but it's not impossible, so we're just going to keep going with it. So I'm just trying to thin out the herd a little bit here. That was my fire cycle. All right, now we can go forward. And let's see. Oh my... Are you kidding me? A conduit? Wait, what? Okay, so let's think about this. After the shield, I spawned power. I clicked the power and I killed practically nothing. And then I spawned a channeling. And then after spawning the channeling, I killed practically nothing and then instantly spawned a conduit. That's got to be one of the luckiest streaks of pylon spawns I've ever seen. Like, it just pretty much gave me 3 pylon spawns in a row for doing nothing. You do not see that every day. In fact, you barely see that ever. Well, with this kind of a bar, I better be able to kill this boss, right? I literally have half of the Greater Rift to kill Stonesinger, and all it took was 4 pylons. I pretty much threw 2 of them away entirely. The power I did nothing with, and the channeling was okay, but it's not really going to help me. So all that damage was from the conduit. Now, stacking Stricken here, you can stack Stricken faster with Whirlwind than Hammer of the Ancients. So what you should do in these high clears is spend a lot of the beginning of the fight whirlwinding. The problem with Stonesinger is he consistently spawns these stupid turrets, and these turrets are going to take some of my Stricken stacks. So my only goal is to stack Stricken here, and this boss keeps spawning ads that take my Stricken stacks, the only thing I'm trying to accomplish. So essentially, Stonesinger is not invited to my birthday party. What you can do in the beginning when you're not whirlwinding is you can Hammer of the Ancient. And when you Hammer of the Ancient, you do it again on Fire Cycle, because that's like the only point in the fight where you're actually dealing any kind of damage. And then after a while, after stacking Stricken for a few minutes, there's some mathematical inflection point that I don't know what it is, where it's just better to just Hammer of the Ancient the rest of the fight. And a general rule is, I would say, stack Stricken with Whirlwind for, I don't know, 2 minutes or so. It depends on what pylons you have. If you have a power, you could do less. But I don't know, like stack Whirlwind for 2 minutes, and then the rest of the fight, just Hammer of the Ancient. It's something like that. All right, well, it's actually a little bit challenging to survive against Stone Singer. First of all, Stone Singer and his friends hit extremely hard, so they can just straight up kill me. By the way, I have 0 points in vitality here, like 500,000 health. So this build is extremely tanky. Even if if you put in any vitality, it's pretty hard to kill you as long as you keep your Band of Might up. But the reason why he can kill me is not because my character isn't tanky, it's because it's hard to keep up your cooldowns just fighting one target. If my Wrath of the Berserker or my Ancients fall off, then I am, in huge trouble. Another thing that you can't do is you can't spam your Ground Stomp, because if you do that, then your Ground Stomp is constantly on cooldown, and then it eats your Obsidian Ring procs, and then they don't go into your Wrath of the Berserker and your Ancients. They fall off, and then you die. So, what does all that complicated stuff mean? It means keep your buffs up, and only stomp when your Band of Might is right about to fall off. Your Obsidian Ring will reset it instantly, and then don't cast it again until you absolutely have to. That's the way you're going to stay alive on these single target bosses. All right, so we're getting him lower and lower and lower here. It's certainly about time for me to start thinking just to hammer away for the rest of my life. So let's see when we decide to do that. I need to get my Ancients up there at some point. And it's going to be very soon where I'm just going to hammer him the rest of the way. But remember how big of a lead I had going into this boss fight. And, you can imagine, not every clear goes that smoothly. So the one thing that you may kind of require to do such a clear, a very high one, is a power pylon. Power pylon, if I had one right now, I would just shred him dead instantly. And I would still have a couple minutes left on the timer. But the beauty of the Whirlwind power is it gathers everything up so beautifully, so you can just smash it down with your big hammer. And I'm quite sure that the HotA build is stronger than Whirlwind. I think next season they will both do 150, but I think you'll be able to do it easier with Hammer of the Ancients, even with the terrible boss fight. You will need a conduit during the rift. You will hopefully need a power for the boss. Hopefully you can spawn that. But with how well you can pixel on the big maps, as long as you save yourself that little section to spawn yourself the conduit, smash down the trash, check it, get the conduit, zap the elites, go next, get a decent follow-up, get a power, don't use it, finish the rift, stack Stricken, click the power, and smash them, I think you'll be able to do this. Takes a little bit of rotation practice with proccing your Band of Might in cold, pixeling him in a nice spot in cold, DPSing a little bit in cold to spawn an Aki, whirling over in cold to pixel them for the fire cycle, and then smashing them down. You can do it. But this was one of the top clears, and if you thought Whirlwind was strong, Hammer of the Ancients is even better.